enforcement and our fight against crime activity, and in particularly what we're seeing as drugs. We're going to share today some statistics that have been compiled by the chief and the deputy chief through the department records that we maintain. There may be other records out there that the district attorney may have or the state police may have. With us today we have representatives from the state police, representatives from the town of Wallkill Town Board. This is Deputy Supervisor Councilman Valentin, also a member of the Police Liaison Committee. We have District Attorney Dave Hoovler, who needs no introduction to the press. Very, very popular, especially with me. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Our Police Chief, Robert Hertman. We have Deborah Brooks Emmons, who is a representative of the town of Wallkill Police Community Council, and Officer Snellinger, Detective Snellinger, who is a representative of the PBA. Dennis Roland, we tried to contact him. We were not able to get a hold of him, but certainly try to include the PBA in today's announcements. There is a real epidemic happening in our country with heroin and drug abuse. That should not be surprising to anyone. But sadly, as a supervisor of a town that has a lot of commercial growth, medical growth, positive growth, and very rural areas, and is a suburban community to the city, suburbs of the city, when you say that to people, people just don't realize what's going on. They don't realize how bad it has gotten. We are not an island to this. I believe that there are no communities in this country at this time that are islands to this. And the question is do we start beating a very loud drum in our communities, to our state representatives and our federal representatives, to ask for help in regards to ending this very horrific drug crisis happening in the United States today. The amount of drugs that we're seeing just at our level, percent to capita, is huge. You can only imagine how much the state police sees, how much the DA sees in our county and in our state, and what's happening. Our borders are Swiss cheese when it comes to these drugs coming across the borders. The amount of money that is in this industry is insane, and the resources that communities have to combat it are limited. You know, because you cover this area, that the 2% property tax cap isn't 2%. You know that there are no exceptions really to that cap when it comes to expenditures in law enforcement or dealing with areas of public safety such as this. And today I'm announcing that based on the statistics that our board has reviewed and some discussions that we've had over the last few months, both with our PBA, our members of the department, discussions that we've had with District Attorney Hoovler, discussions that we've had with Major Chipoto, our police chief, the sheriff, the law enforcement community has convinced our board that there needs to be a ramp up now of law enforcement in our town and in many towns with a focus on fighting this drug epidemic. Currently, the town of Wallkill Town Board budgetarily has committed to 23 full-time police officer positions. Just 4 years ago, this town was $2 million in debt. We had very difficult decisions to make. We had a very hard time even hiring police officers. At that time, we made a decision to have a part-time force supplement our full-time department. That was successful to help dig us out of a budget crisis, keep the department functioning, but was not the long-term answer to the police department. We have always recognized that we will continue to have part-time supplemental help, but the focus needs to be on making sure we grow back to what we need to have as far as full-time police officers. The board made a decision last night to authorize a budget transfer, if need be, out of fund balance to cover the cost of 3 additional full-time police officers to our budget, which will take our number from 23 full-time sworn police officers to 26. That is also made with the commitment that we will continue to support the district attorney with a full-time police officer in the drug task force, something that we would encourage every municipality in the county to do. When the district attorney and the sheriff reached out to us in its infancy stages, it was not a hard appeal to make. we recognized early on they were doing the right thing. The work that the state police is doing in that area, right thing as well. We sent a full-time officer, a detective there to work with them, and they've been there over a year. We're going to continue that. To understand what this means financially to the town, a police officer in the town of Wallkill starting out in their first year, when you add all costs involved, is roughly a $100,000 expense. That does not include a car, and that does not include costs attributed to oversight and management. As the bottom of the pyramid grows, the top has to grow too, as the chief and deputy chief remind us. So this is basically making a $300,000 in budget year amendment and a commitment that next year we will sustain that additional 3 officers. It is also done with the understanding that we have had good relations with our PBA, and that PBA coming from our membership. Police departments many times find themselves in a position where they cannot expand because the management and the leadership cannot come to understandings with their membership about the true cost of running a department. We have had very good relationship with our members to explain to them what these costs are, and they have agreed to work with us many times in the past. We've implemented steady tours agreements which have helped them and helped us. We've implemented 207C reform, which has helped them and helped us. This commitment for additional full-time staffing will help them and help us, and it's a collaborative effort working together. We would not be able to do it without that collaborative effort. I'll give you a couple statistics that helped us make our decision, and it really is quite staggering. If you look at 2011 in the town of Wallkill, this 64 square mile town responded to roughly 19,330 calls to service. If you jump ahead to just the end of last year, calls to service crested 32,962, almost pushing 33,000 calls to service in the town. And some folks might say, well, as you grow, that's what happens. The bigger town you have, the more police department you need, all that stuff. It's all negative, negative, negative. It's not true. There's no correlation to that whatsoever. What we are seeing a direct correlation to is in the growth of drug activity. All of the theft, the robberies, the assaults, the prostitution, all of these crimes, 9 times out of 10, have a direct correlation to drugs. And in our region, probably 75% of that is a direct correlation to either marijuana or heroin and things of that nature. When we asked for arrest records, we've recognized that in 2011, 38 arrests were made. In 2015, 103 arrests were made. Exponential growth in arrests shows us that our officers are doing their job, but also shows us that there's this huge challenge out there. Year to date, we're at 85 arrests, which means that we are on track to almost double again the number of arrests that are being made. When we take those same analysis and we break them down to arrests and drugs, arrests related to drugs and narcotics, drug possession, drug sales. In 2011, 42 drug-related arrests happened. In 2015, 114. Year to date, 53. Again, setting a trend that this problem is not going away. All of the statistical data points to 2014 and the end of 2013 as a major spike in this narcotics situation, which is affecting everything else. Again, this is not something that's happening because we're a growing town and a growing community. You just read the other day that communities like Warwick are having major impacts. When we have discussions with the Drug Task Force and the DA, we're finding there's no island to this. It's happening in Sullivan County. It's happening in Rockland County, Ulster County, Dutchess County. It's what you do about it that separates you from everybody else. This town is making a huge financial commitment and going to continue a great collaborative relationship both with the state police, the sheriff's department, and the DA's office, because the war on drugs is back. The war on drugs should not have died with Nancy Reagan. But I feel that the federal government and the state government generally have done everything but basically abandoned doing anything to directly impact these issues. And it's not just us who needs help. I'm speaking on behalf of the state police needs help. The DA's office needs help. Funding needs to be put in place to really combat this now before it takes over our culture and destroys our society. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Hertman, and then we'll turn it over to District Attorney Hoovler. Chief Hertman.
Thank you to Supervisor Depew and members of the town board for their ongoing support of our police department. The dramatic rise in heroin use continues to impact the quality of life in our town. Nowhere is this more evident than in the recent uptick in some areas of crime.